We are getting into free agent frenzy. This is where we get to watch people trade baseball cards in real
Pretty much.
life, in the
Yeah.
Earl, in the IRL. it's cray cray town. It's totes, magoats, nutsos. I just made all that up. This is so much fun though, because some of our favorite players no longer play for some of our favorite teams, and some of our least favorite players, this is a tease, no longer play for our favorite teams. That's very exciting.
You're right. It is.
So,
Very good. So
how do you feel about overall, Brad? How do you feel about all of what has happened with the free agents since the lockout ended?
it was a little slow to be there at the beginning, and it was a little disappointing. Like, well, shoot, like the way that it was before the lockout, and I wasn't expecting it to be exactly the same. I wasn't expecting it to be like everybody within 3 days getting on a team, because they were up against a deadline. They're up
Yep.
against a hard deadline for the guys who wanted to get their deals done.
Yep.
And these guys, I feel like it was one of those things where they're basically like, the longer I hold out, the less time I have to spend at spring training. I've been training this whole time. I'm good to go.
Right.
Well, give me a week of games and I'll be fine.
So. Which I think is mostly true.
Hmm?
I don't think it's going to be 100% true for everybody, but I think largely that's the case.
Yeah, because I mean, we talked about how Brian Snitker doesn't even like spring training.
Exactly.
I'm sure that there are players who feel the same way.
For sure. How could there not be? I'll tell you, when all this set off, I was like, okay, no, but so you still don't care? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you just, what did you enjoy not having to do your job ever? Ownership and teams and like what? And that really bummed me out, honestly. Like, talk about like a meta sort of response to this was, oh, okay, so you still don't care, right? And that really bugged me.
The one thing that really surprised me is that I was expecting there to be deals like the day of, because I was like, there's still backdoor conversations, absolutely. Totally. But as it turns out, there weren't. I guess everybody was following the rules.
Or they were saving face.
Yeah, they could have been. Yeah.
And some of those names that you'd expected to go before the lockout didn't, like Correa, and that's, to me, was.
Well, I think Correa had a plan the whole time. Like, let's talk about him real quick, because during the lockout, he fired his agent and hired Scotty B. So he is now represented by Scott Boras, and that is honestly, I think a really big deal, because he got him, I feel like, exactly what he wanted. Yeah. I think when it came down to it, the market for Correa was not nearly what he wanted it to be. He went to Minnesota, of all places, got $105.3 million over 3 years with 2-player options.
Right.
So he basically has 3 one-year deals with the Twins. And I think what it is Boras is like, hey, you had a couple of years of injury. Yeah. Teams are not as hot on you as they should be. Let's have a prove-it year this year. But nobody's going to want to sign you to a 1-year deal. So have a prove-it year. You have another year of injury, you're good to go for 2023. Have a prove-it year that year. And whenever he's ready to go, he can. He can go sign that big deal, because he's only 27.
Right. He's 30 exactly right. Yeah.
So they knew what they were doing for sure. Minnesota is nothing more than a tryout for him for the rest of the league, just like this last year was.
For the rest of his career. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So I think that's why he didn't sign before.
I think that's good. I like that. That's really cool. Okay, so let's get into a couple others big names and some of the teams associated with the associated goings on. Let's start with Trevor Story. He ended up in Boston, of all places. I'm terribly worried about this, but I know he doesn't have as much range as he used to, so they're going to move him to second base.
Well, and I think part of that too is that they're all full up at shortstop and third base.
Sure enough, they are.
Never. You got all-stars over there. What are you going to do?
You can't move Cabbage Patch out. No way.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. No. And initially, I think that Story was saying he wasn't going to switch positions, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, how much are you willing to pay me? You know, like my dad used to say, some guy walked into the garage one day. He's like, hey, you having a garage sale? I was like, well, how much you want to pay for anything? It's all for sale. Just depends on how much you want to pay for me.
That's right.
You know? So I think the price is right for Story.
Yeah, I think that it worked out nice for the Red Sox and it worked out nice for Trevor. I'm actually really excited about it. I think the Red Sox are going to get the better deal out of this than Trevor is, but I think that if he can settle in and prove himself, he's going to have a really good opportunity in Boston. And I think the fan base will really warmly accept him if he does well. If he does not do well with the position change, I think they're going to eat him alive.
Right. Yeah. It could be a really hard time for him.
Yep.
I don't know. The Red Sox are scary on paper, though. That's what worries me, is that I've been saying Mariners 2023 in the World Series, but this has me really questioning that.
No, don't. He said impotently. Okay, let's move on. Other notables, Boston picked up James Paxton. They re-signed Jackie Bradley Jr., and Rich Hill is on his way to Boston as well. I thought those were interesting.
They traded for Jackie Bradley Jr. They traded and brought him back.
But he came back.
Yeah. Anyway, he's back. I think that's the biggest deal for them. James Paxton has been injury prone the last couple of years. He's coming off Tommy John.
Yeah.
He might be a good fifth starter for them. Might be a bullpen arm. I don't know how they're going to use him.
Bullpen arm. Watch.
Most likely.
Especially as the season progresses, he'll spend more time in the bullpen. I think if they make it into October, he's not going to be a starter by then.
Oh, certainly not. No. And Rich Hill, he's a good piece. He's a good piece for them.
Yeah,
portfolio
work.
I think Boston definitely got better though.
They did.
So
100. Okay, let's move down south just a little bit to the Yankees. New York Yankees. They re-signed Anthony Rizzo and brought in Josh Donaldson. So first of all, let's talk about first base. Okay, Rizzo's in again. That means Luke Voit is needing to be out. He's out now. But there was some issues at spring training apparently where Voit was pouting and maybe being a little bit of a poo-poo face and to some of the prospects. Rizzo called him out, and and we always say that as the X Factor Clubhouse guy, Rizzo always brings that to the table. So, and then within about, 3 minutes, Luke Voit was gone.
Gone, like off to San Diego, not just like across the division, across the country, and into a different league.
Yeah, like go play DH somewhere else, homie.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want any of that noise. No. And then the Yankees trade for Josh Donaldson and send Gary Sanchez?
Yes!
That's a good deal. That's a really good deal. Josh Donaldson's not what he was, but man, it's still a great bat to have in the lineup. And he crushed a ball the other day in his first spring training at bat. Just absolutely.
It's a great bat to have. He's another X Factor Clubhouse guy. He's going to bring leadership. He's going to bring maturity. He's going to ground this ball club. And I think working with Anthony Rizzo and some of these other guys that are really experienced at this point are going to be great for this younger club.
Yep. Yeah. And, that's we gave Brig a hard time last week during the draft, but honestly, Brian Cashman says that this is a good team, and I'm inclined to agree with him. They got better by getting rid of Gary Sanchez and bringing in Josh Donaldson.
Yep. And I've always been a Luke Voit fan. Always have been. I think he's great, but I wish him the best in Slam Diego. I really do. But it's going to be good to have. He's inflammatory. He just is. And so I wonder if that's not a clubhouse cohesion thing. And obviously we saw that it was. So,
and there were issues last year when Rizzo got brought in.
Yep.
He was vocal saying, if I'm not going to play first base here, send me somewhere else to play first base. And
okay.
I get it. And so they did.
Done.
So, good for him. He's expected to DH and play first base in San Diego.
I was shocked that Anthony Rizzo stuck around in New York, though, just because I thought he was absolutely miserable last year.
He looked like it. He sure looked like he was not having fun. And he seems to me like a guy who has to have fun regardless of where he plays.
Yep. And he could have ended up back in Chicago, but he didn't, and I'm shocked.
Yes. That's the crazy thing is that so we were talking to Denise about this, the host of our North Chicago Baseball Together podcast, and it sounded like Hoyer offered Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez offered all those guys more money than they got.
Yep.
So I wonder if there is an issue in the front office there, because I know in Seattle not all the players are super high on Jerry Dipoto, and I think he knows that. I think he understands. It's a front office and players thing. He was a player, he understands it. But sure. I don't know if Jed Hoyer gets it, and maybe that could be an issue.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And Denise is always great. If you're interested in Chicago and the Chicago baseball scene, you got to listen to Denise talk about it. She's spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
okay. So Luke Voigt, we got through that. Michael Pineda, let me just stay here for a minute. A name I'm sure you did not expect to hear ever again. He's going to play in Detroit maybe for a year, maybe, where he may or may not be surrounded by Vaseline. We don't know. Going to be interesting.
Vaseline, pine tar, spider tack, you name it. He's probably got it somewhere on his person as he's making $5.5 million.
Oh, that's just funny. Okay, let's move on. Jock Peterson goes to San Francisco on a 1-year, $6 million deal.
Do you think
of this? Huh?
You think he'll still wear the pearl?
Well, I don't know.
You don't mess with the street. I would if I were him. That would be like my new thing.
Well, I would too, but I don't know if he will.
In fact, you know what, Brig? That's caught on. The pearls have caught on. I was at Topgolf last week with work for a work thing, and there were in the next bay over, there were these kids who were on a baseball team, and 2 of them were wearing pearls.
Really?
True story. Yeah.
Whoa, that's okay.
Yeah,
if that's the case, then you have to keep going.
He has to. It's become his thing.
Huh. I did not know that the kids were wearing pearls. Obviously here they were, but
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny seeing those, and they were like 14, 15 wearing pearls. But
I love it.
No, I think that's a good pickup for the Giants.
And a 1-year deal, no pressure for $6 million. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And we expected them to step back this year because they lost some guys, but I think that they've kind of made the moves that they need because they got Rodon as well.
That's right. And I think we expected them to take a step back because of Buster Posey, but now we're like, maybe we don't have to,
Yeah, and they lost Chris Bryant too.
They sure did. Chris Bryant went to Colorado. Chris Bryant's going to Denver.
So, okay, 7 years, $182 million to play left field and hit home runs. Like, that's what this deal is. Now,
all he's supposed to do.
Think about this, though. This is the way I see this is that the Rockies are making an investment. That's all this is. He is going to put some butts in seats.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to want to come in and see a World Series champion, all-star. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
However, in 3 years, when he says, I'm really sick and tired of not winning, they're like, okay, we'll trade you for a haul of prospects.
That's true.
That's what's going to happen.
I'll bet you're right.
Call him a shot right
Woo!
here. Right.
Okay. Brad's got it. So, 7 years, $182 million. That's the crowning jewel right now of the lineup in Denver's last 8 seasons. Just kidding. But that's kind of how it feels.
I mean, it's crazy, though, because they signed Nolan Arenado to that deal, and then we're like, oh, shoot, buyer's remorse, trade him.
Sorry, man.
Off to St. Louis. And then they tell Trevor Story, we're not going to extend you, but we'll trade you. And then they don't, and he rightfully pouts the rest of the season.
Right.
So I don't know what was said in the meeting with Chris Bryant other than we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money to come play for us.
Yep.
A bunch of guaranteed money at that.
Please come and hit home runs in the easiest place ever to hit home runs. And we're going to make it as easy on you as possible. And anyway,
especially for a right-handed batter.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that. Frederick. Let's talk about Frederick for a minute. Frederick Freeman is now in
LA.
Like they needed another thing. Like it's like this is like the kid whose parents buys him everything and they're available and he's emotionally well balanced and he drives a Lexus bicycle or whatever. It's like, why if I was Freddie and I wanted to win baseball games, I would go to LA. That's exactly what I would do.
Yes, for sure. He signed a deal, 6 years, $162 million. The Braves were not going to give him a 6th year. They wanted to give him 5 years, and I think that was the deal breaker there, the deal maker with the Dodgers. And it seemed like nobody else was willing to give him a 6th year either. So, and this is a little out of character for the Dodgers, I feel like, because they have not been willing to give these quote unquote long-term deals to their players because they don't want to be tied up to somebody when they're past their prime. Well, apparently Mr. Frederick Freeman is the guy for them, and that could be the scariest lineup we've seen in baseball. I heard somebody this week comparing them to the Big Red Machine.
Oh, seriously?
That was the last time we saw a lineup this potent, and that includes the late 90s Yankees.
Right.
That's a pretty big deal.
Does that go up against Murderers Row? Now, it is baseball analysis time at this house. I'm going to get my geek on so hard. It's going to be so great. Stay tuned for next week when Brig goes crazy telling you all the things.
It could though, right?
It could. It really could.
Like, especially so think about this, is that was an offensive power in an age when there were no offensive powers.
That's right.
And this is an offensive juggernaut in an age among offensive powers.
Yeah.
So who wins the home run derby? I'm going to put my money on the Dodgers.
You mean the season-long one? Like the real one?
Well, I mean, you put them on the field together. You have the Dodgers lineup against the Yankees lineup in a home run derby. I would take the Dodgers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And maybe even
I don't know. Did you hear KB went to Denver?
That's one guy.
You don't know what he's capable of. He never played in Denver, okay?
No, that's a scary lineup, though. That's a really scary lineup for the National League West. Like, San Diego, though, when San Diego plays LA, that's must-see TV.
Oh, yeah.
Tune in your MLB TV to those games. There's going to be a lot of them.
Yep. I agree.
Love it.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so good. Okay. Jorge Soler goes to Miami, $36 million for 3 years. That's a good pickup for Miami, but to do what with? Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because what's going on in Miami, nobody knows except for the World Baseball Classic in 2023. We think. Matt Olsen got traded to Atlanta. There's an extension signed, $168 million, 8 whopping years on top of that contract. Holy moly.
That's an outstanding pickup.
That's when we knew Frederick was leaving.
Yes. When the Braves had officially given up on Freddie Freeman, they traded for Matt Olsen. And this is a better deal for the Braves. This is a little more team-friendly compared to what he was asking for.
Totally.
You look at annual average value, it's lower. And he's younger.
Yep.
I like Matt Olsen a lot. I'm really, really, really happy he's out of the AL West because the dude mashes.
He's not a defensive liability at all.
No, he's great. He's great at first base.
So that'll be great.
We did a comparison a few weeks ago where he actually had a better year this last year than Freddie Freeman did.
That's right. So Kenley Janssen also got picked up in Atlanta. And there's an interesting story behind this. It's a $16 million 1-year deal. Now he's 36 years old. and he's from Curacao. Here's the cool thing, and he's got a heart condition, right? So 36, heart condition, but he's from Curacao. And guess which team he grew up rooting for?
Probably the Braves.
The Braves. Yep.
That's cool.
So that he said that it was his decision. He got a text message from Dave Roberts, and Dave said, "Are you coming back?" And essentially he said, "No, I'm going to go with Atlanta." So it was a lot of his decision. I think he would have stayed in, what I read was he would have stayed in LA had they given him the deal he wanted. I don't think they were able to agree to quite the terms that everybody needed for what will likely be his last year in baseball.
So he's 34.
Oh, I thought he was 36.
No, he's 34. So he could have a couple more years. I don't know that he necessarily will, though, because I feel like that heart condition has really taken a toll on him the last few years. He's blown a lot of saves. So. Been kind of an issue there in LA. And so I'm not surprised they didn't bring him back on the kind of money that he wanted, especially a $16 million deal. Yeah. But I think obviously it depends on the kind of year he has. If he goes to Atlanta and he lights out, he's a great setup man, or he's a great closer for them. I'm sure they'll bring him back for one more year on a team-friendly deal, and he'll take it.
Yep, for sure. But that's it, though. That's probably as much as we'll see out of him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I don't know. It's just cool that he gets to play for the team he grew up rooting for, and I think he's excited about that.
Yeah.
So in Philadelphia, moving back up north, Nick Castellanos gets signed to Philadelphia. $100 million, 5-year deal. And they also picked up the Schwarbs. Kyle Schwarber is going to be playing in Philly now.
So I love Nick Castellanos to Philly, by the way. Like, that's an outstanding deal. That's a team-friendly deal. $20 million a year for him. But I saw somebody the other day said that Dave Dombrowski got confused when he heard that there was a universal DH, that it's just one player as the DH in the lineup, not a whole lineup of DHs. That's what they have. Everybody on that team. But they've got to make up for deficiencies in the bullpen, so I get it. You've got to score a bunch of runs throughout the game so your bullpen can't blow it. Right?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
If you've got 9 guys who can hit, 6 of them are going to hit every night, or 100%. At least 3. So
3 at least. Yeah, exactly. No, it's fun. It'll be fun to watch Philly this year, and I think that, like you said, they're just going to be run producers.
Yeah,
if they all stay healthy, they'll just rake.
They're going to be in shootouts every single night.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to have to just, and I think they're going to. That's a great
It's going to be so fun.
Be a blast.
It'll just be like carpet bombing out there every time Philadelphia is in town. Just like go to the bomb shelter. So let's talk about the Cubs for a minute. The Cubs picked up everybody else. First of all, it was this laundry list of players that were good, that have been really good in the past and were really decent like a couple of years ago. Brad, you made that comment earlier.
They definitely peaked 3 years ago. Every single one of those guys.
Like my favorite pickup of theirs is David Robertson. David Robertson's a national treasure. For those of you who are new to the show, it's an entirely true statement I just made. But they got Marcus Stroman and Sia Suzuki. Those are the 2 big kind of impact signings for them. Brad, tell us about Suzuki, why you're excited about him, and a little bit of detail, because I think people need to know who he is.
So he is a really big deal. He's awesome. The Mariners were in the running. They were one of the last 4 teams that he was considering. And honestly, a lot of people have said that he's going to be better than Ichiro because he's willing to hit for power. That he can hit for average, but he is also willing to hit those home runs that are a major part of the game right now.
Yeah.
And from what I think it's Denise who told us that he talked to you, Darvish.
Yeah, before. He did.
Because he's like, where would be a good landing spot? And he said that Chicago would be a good place to go. I think the fans are going to love him there. He's obviously got a sense of humor. He picked number 27. Somebody asked him in his press conference why, and he said, without his translator, without his interpreter, he took the mic and he said, "Mike Trout, I love you." It's really cool to be the first generation of guys who grew up watching Mike Trout come into the league. It's fun to watch that stuff, and the Cubs, even if they stink this year because everybody's past their prime, they're going to have a lot of fun watching Suzuki.
I agree with you. He's from Japan, for those of you guys that don't know. He plays outfield, third base, and shortstop, depending on which channel you're watching and which language you speak. Yeah, he's an athlete. The dude is, he started his professional career at 18 years old, which happens more often in Japan than it does here, first of all. And he is very young. This will be his age 26/27 season. So
he's about
or
the same
excuse me,
age
27. Yeah, 27 year old.
He's the same age was when he came over then.
Yeah. So
you'll have a good 13 years with him probably.
Yeah. So we're excited about it. It's going to be fun to watch. He's getting a lot of hype like Wander Franco did, and we know what happened there. So we'll see. But yeah, he's a big deal in Japan, and this is more of that international hype I think Major League Baseball needs right now, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over to the Mets. Max Scherzer signs the Mets. I'm laughing at my note here. And then
ready to met his orange bed.
Yeah.
So this is a deal that went down before the lockout, right?
You better explain the idiom though. It's a little phrase.
So anytime anybody in sports messes up, they refer to him as wetting the bed, right? Well, the Mets do it so often, we figure we just give them the name that they get the verb. They met the bed.
They met the bed. And we're so sorry.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should. It's so good. We should do that actually. But it's a $130 million 3-year deal. They also picked up Starling Marte to kind of round things out. Mr. Cohen over there is not afraid to spend big, fat change. This dude is throwing dollar bills at everything that moves.
I think they call the fourth tier of the luxury tax, of the competitive balance tax. I think they're calling it the Cohen tax.
The Cohen tax.
Because that dude is like writing checks left and right because he doesn't care. He doesn't care,
man. He's like 50%. I don't care. What's a 50% luxury tax? It doesn't matter. It's great. I got the money. I beat J-Lo. Everything's good.
That's all he cares about.
Excuse me. Let me just be clear to anybody listening. He didn't actually physically assault J-Lo. He just owns the team.
And because for those who don't remember, J-Lo and A-Rod were considering putting together a group. This is the thing that's crazy to think about, Brig, is that A-Rod and J-Lo, two of the absolute richest, I shouldn't say richest, but richest people in like celebritydom.
They're wealthy together, yes.
The two of them together needed a group of several more people to try to buy the Mets. And Steve Cohen comes in here and he's like, "You want check or cash?" Like, that's how much money this guy has
to buy the team, and now he's spending money outside of what is considered even reasonable, let alone rational, to win baseball games and win them aggressively. I'm very excited. I've been talking about the Mets for months, and I am really excited to see what happens because I think it's going to be good for baseball. I think he's becoming sort of this like money gremlin, like spendthrift, averse. He's not thrifty at all. He's like, I am going to do anything I have to do to win. And if I have to be the bad guy to do it, I'll do it. And I don't care about your kids. He doesn't care about your kids. He wants to bring it home. He wants to park a ship in the harbor.
A schooner. Anyway,
schooner.
But no, that's Starling Marte. Real quick, that Starling Marte deal is outstanding. He is a great hitter who is going to do great things for the Mets. Even if they just have him as their DH, like, he is a scary hitter. That is an outstanding. I am stoked for the Mets to have picked up Starling Marte because that was one of those under the radar ones that I was like, if the Mariners bring him in, that would be pretty awesome to have that bat. But man, the Mets got him, and it'll be interesting to see if they do actually met the bed this year and don't even make the playoffs.
I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to met the bed this year. And if they do it this year, they won't next year. You watch.
We'll see. They got 3 years of Scherzer and 2 more years of DeGrom. because he's already said he's going to opt out. I think it's after 2023 he's going to opt out.
Yeah, 2 years, I think it is what it is.
So, yeah. So they got to do it this year or next.
A couple more. Matt Chapman traded to Toronto, and the A's got everybody else that was left. What'd you say? A whole lot of prospects. 4 prospects.
Yeah, they got 4
Matt
prospects back. Anybody who was left after the Josh Donaldson deal.
After the deal, yeah. After the Cubs picked up everybody else last.
That's a scary infield, though. You've got Matt Chapman, Vlad Guerrero. You've got Bo Bichette. That's a good infield.
Yeah, it really is.
And you know what? So the Blue Jays also picked up Yusei Kikuchi. He pitched for the Mariners last year. And I thought it was so funny. A lot of people were already crowning the Blue Jays as AL champs, saying, "Oh, this team, just pencil them in for the World Series."
Yeah, for sure.
Kikuchi's going to be a really good pitcher for them if they go with the 6-man rotation. He struggled with the 5-man, just so you know, Toronto fans. So beware of that. But that infield, though, is unreal again.
Unreal. Yeah, it's really good. And then the Mariners trade for Jesse Winker and
Eugenio
Suarez. Yeah, thank you. Justin Dunn, Brandon Williamson, and Jake Fraley are gone, baby.
They're gone. So I know on like face value, this isn't a big deal, but Jesse Winker has done great things the last 3 or 4 years. He has actually hit more home runs than just about every outfielder the last 4 years. So he's one of those sneaky under the radar guys. I saw a stat. You'll have to trust me on that, Rick.
I'm trusting you.
And he's also had a higher batting average than most outfielders during that time too. In his debut with the Mariners, I think he hit a double off the wall and drove in 2 runs this last week in spring training. So I'm excited about Jesse Winker. Suarez, a little bit more, I don't know, kind of him and hawing on that because I'm a big Abraham Toro fan. I was hoping to see him at third base, but I think it's going to be Suarez.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but it's pronounced debut, not debut.
Well, that's a debut.
That's a debut. It's up for debut is what it is. Okay, Nelson Cruz. Lastly, Nelson Cruz is in Washington now, where he will hit home runs and make jokes.
As their universal DH.
That's exactly what he's going to do. This is going to save the latter part of his career. We're very excited for him. And
the dude's 42.
I know. You remember Mr. Baseball when old mustache himself went to Japan to play baseball?
Tom Selleck?
Yeah, thank you. And he's as old as Tom Selleck looked in that movie. It's like, why are you still playing baseball?
Well, and honestly, he's as old as we all thought Crash Davis was when we first watched Bull Durham.
There you go. Ooh, that's way better. Dang, you're good at this. Boy, if you give Brad a chance to bring up Crash Davis, you will not be disappointed. First of all, he will. And second of all, it's always good. It's always good. He spends a lot of time thinking about Crash Davis. Okay. So
you're right.
Who's left on the break?
No, let's just finish up with who's left on the market.
All right, who's left on the market? We got some pitchers and some position players. Going through pitchers first. Sergio Romo, right-hander. Brett Anderson, left-hander. Tony Watson's a left-hander. Hunter Strickland's a right-hander. Richard Rodriguez is a right-hander. And Johnny Cueto still plays baseball. He still throws with his right hand, too. That's pretty exciting. Position players, Kevin Pillar, outfielder. Jed Lowry, infielder. Tommy Pham, outfielder. And Michael Conforto, outfielder. That's who's available. That's who still wants to play baseball.
And Dexter Fowler. Did you see that tweet the other day?
And
Somebody
Dexter
tweeted
Fowler.
out the list, and he quote tweeted with his hand up. They haven't been signed.
There's another couple of names. I should say there's a first name and a last name. That's why there are a couple of names. That this person is still a free agent. We still don't talk about him at my house. And please do not sign him unless you can bring him into the AL East so that we can make him look like a fool once again. and boo him every chance we get.
Didn't he retire?
I saw him on a list.
Interesting. So he hasn't filed.
I saw him on a list. Maybe he wants to be a universal DH.
I don't know how that will work out for him.
He's like, you know what I'm gonna do now?
I'm surprised you haven't seen more guys come out of retirement and be like, I can go hit.
That's right.
Hit twice a week.
I agree with you.
Give the regular DH a break.